It's a true honor to stand here in Jerusalem, the beating heart of our people, as the delegate of the Austrian Jewish community. A community that rebuilt itself with strength, pride, and deep Zionist spirit. My name is Michael Houston. I'm an entrepreneur with an academic background in economics. But beyond business, my life has always been about social commitment, from founding a youth movement to serving as the ombudsman of our community. Today we discuss Zionism in the age of social media, a topic that could not be more urgent. Technology connects, empowers, and educates, but it also distorts, divides, spreads hate. The digital world has become a new battlefield of ideas, where truth and lies compete for hearts and minds. Our response must be clear, creative, and confident. Digital Hasbara is not about defending, it's about telling our story. The story of a people who turned exile into return, despair into a renewal, and dreams into a thriving nation. We must use technology not as a weapon, but as a tool of building, to inspire, to teach, and to connect. As Nehemiah wrote, when our ancestors rebuilt Jerusalem, each held his tool in one hand and his weapon in the other hand. Today, our tool is technology, and our weapon is truth. Let us build and defend with courage and faith, so that the light of Zionism continues to shine across every digital frontier that we encounter. It's now my pleasure to hand over to Mr. Zvika Klein, who will moderate this important panel. Thank you very much. Have a pleasant panel.
Hello, everybody. Thank you for being here. I'll want to first call our distinguished panelists. My name is Zvika Klein. I'm the editor-in-chief of the Jerusalem Post. I was once an alternate delegate. That's my claim to fame. Oh, there you see? We used to be the same. And there's some Chicagoans in the audience, which is important. We always need the Chicagoans here. Okay, I'd like to introduce our three speakers. We'll start with Lior Weintraub. You want to join the stage? Lior is now the head of public policy for TikTok in Israel, which is a role that will raise some eyebrows. Lior used to serve, he was a diplomat, he served in the Israeli embassy in Washington, D.C. He was also the CEO of the Israel Project and is in the whole Hasbara world for many, many years. Dor Lev. פתאום אני שם לב שאני אמור להנחות בעברית, אז אני אדבר בעברית, נכון? מנהלת תוכניות, I could go back to English, I was told Hebrew, but whatever. מנהלת תוכניות והדרכות סושיאל מדיה, Talk Israel. Talk Israel, מי שלא מכיר, שווה לחפש אותם ברשת. הם יוצרים תוכן מצוין. I feel like people want me to speak in English, but whatever. Yeah? Okay. We'll vote. Final speaker, Ya'ara Kapchuk, social media manager of Meretz Argentina, lawyer, board member of the Argentine Zionist organization, and she's actually a real delegate to the Zionist Congress. So let's just make a short vote. Who wants it in English? Oh, wow. Who wants it in Hebrew? חברים, הלך עליכם. שימו אוזניות. I just want to say, Yara is going to speak in Spanish. So if you don't speak Spanish, I don't speak Spanish, get earphones. I have a boss, and it's the production company, and they tell me what language I should speak. So, Ivrit? Okay. Ivrit. If you want English, then you have to get the earphones. I'm sorry. אין בעיה. אוקיי. ליאור, בטח שמת לב שכשאמרתי שאתה עובד בטיק-טוק, הרבה אנשים פה הרימו גבה. אתה ציפית את זה, נכון? או שלא? יש לך מיקרופון.
קודם כל, שלום לכולם. כיף לראות כל כך הרבה צ'אמפיונים.
לפה. ככה.
שומעים אותי?
זה מיקרופונים שרק שומעים ככה.
שומעים אותי? לא. זהו, אין יותר קרוב מזה. תגידו לי אם אתם שומעים עכשיו? אוקיי. טוב, קודם כל, שלום לכולם.
לא, לא שומעים. אנחנו לא שומעים.
אתם לא שומעים. אז הפקה, אם מישהו יכול רגע לעזור לנו עם זה?
סליחה, אנחנו ניקח כמה דקות רק להתארגן.
בואו נראה. שומעים עכשיו? אוקיי. אז שלום לכולם. כיף לראות כל כך הרבה פנים מוכרות, הרבה צ'אמפיונים של העם היהודי והתנועה הציונית. כיף להיות פה. כן, צביקה, טיק טוק הוא נושא שמדברים עליו הרבה בקהילות שלנו, במדינת ישראל, בעולם בכלל. יש הרבה שיח ויש גם הזדמנות גדולה, ואני מניח שבשיחה עכשיו גם ניגע בה.
כן, אז אני רוצה להתייחס לעובדה שעשיתי בדיקה היום בבוקר, יש לי טיק טוק בטלפון, אני מג'ן וואי, ואני עוד לא הצלחתי להתחבר לזה, למרות שאני רוצה, כי אני חושב שזה נכון, אם אתה יוצר תוכן, להיות שם. אבל בדקתי כמה פרופילים יש למדינת ישראל בטיק-טוק. וקודם כל גיליתי שיש פרופיל אחד גדול, יחסית, כן? שבטיק-טוק זה כלום, של 1,000,000 עוקבים, של מדינת ישראל. אם אפשר בבקשה לשבת, אנחנו נשמח. יש פרופיל אחד של מדינת ישראל, 1,000,000 עוקבים, ומתוך כמה שגרירויות יש בעולם וקונסוליות?
100 פלוס,
150, 13 שגרירויות או קונסוליות בלבד, עם פרופיל של טיק טוק שרובם לא כל כך פעילים. יכול להיות שאנחנו פשוט לא, אנחנו אומרים שטיק טוק פוגע בנו עם אלגוריתמים, אבל יכול להיות שאנחנו פשוט לא שם, בזירה.
תראה, אני חושב שטיק טוק כבר קיימת מספיק שנים כדי שאנשים יבינו שהשיחה, בטח בדורות מסוימים, מתקיימת בטיק טוק. וכיום אם מישהו רוצה להגיע לקהלים, בטח שקהלים חדשים, לא משנה אם אתה עסק, אם אתה יוצר, ובטח אם אתה מדינה שיש לה סיפור לספר, או תנועה שיש לה סיפור לספר, טיק טוק הוא שם ואתה צריך להיות שם כדי לספר את הסיפור הזה. אם אתה רוצה להגיע לקהלים חדשים ולשבור את האקו צ'יימבר, צריך להיות בטיק טוק. טיק טוק זו הזדמנות גדולה. הצורה שבה טיק טוק עובדת, בניגוד למצב של גרף חברים, שכל אחד מגיע לחברים שלו ולחברים של החברים שלו, טיק טוק עובד על גרף תוכן. זאת אומרת, הוא מזהה מה האנשים מתעניינים והוא מביא לשם את המידע הזה. כך שמה שאתה אומר לי, בעיניי זו סיטואציה שהייתי רוצה שתהיה אחרת, שיהיו יותר ויותר קולות שמספרים את הסיפור הישראלי ונמצאים שם בחוץ כדי לספר את הסיפור שלנו.
אוקיי. I have an update, live update, news, breaking news. We're moving back to English. You guys should just listen to me when I started speaking English. I know my crowd. Now you notice everyone's quiet. You want to say it again? It's okay. I'll just
Should I say it again?
In short, I'll say I'll repeat the question and you can answer. But basically, so we all have a lot of us have a conception about TikTok, right? You know, its algorithm is very there's very anti-Israel videos that are promoted. The pro-Israel videos, many people feel are not being amplified the way we would hope they would be. But when I checked this morning to see if Israel actually has official TikTok accounts, I found out that of all of our more than 100 embassies, consulates, etc., only 13 have TikTok profile. You say profile or
Accounts.
accounts? Okay, and I don't want to sound old. And there is one official. They're barely active, a few thousand followers. So like we're not there. We're not there. And the one that has 1 million followers, it's for the foreign ministry. It's active occasionally, and 1 million in TikTok world, Dor, maybe you want to tell us, is not a big number, right?
First of all, you may not know this, but I actually ran that account. I used to work for the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, and I ran their official TikTok and Instagram account for a little, like almost 2 years. So during the war, I was also doing that, and
So you left and then they stopped?
so I left, and now you know, they're.
Go back, Dor.
Yeah.
We need you.
Yeah, I mean, when I used to do it, it used to be more fun. It used to approach the young generation. This is what TikTok is all about. And the content was different than what we posted on Instagram. Definitely the embassies need to do more. They need to be on TikTok because they are on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, Twitter.
X,
Yeah, for sure. They're all
Formerly known as.
formally.
I'd like to add something since my first answer was in Hebrew. So there's a lot to unpack in what Tzvika said, and I would love, if we have the time, to discuss it. But generally, what I was saying in Hebrew before is TikTok is where the conversation is taking place right now. And not being there reminds me of a joke in Hebrew, I hope it will work in English, of a guy that really wants to win the lottery. Every morning he wakes up and said, God, please, I want to win the lottery. Every morning, God, please, I want to win the lottery. So after a month, God says, please buy a ticket. And I think that in order to, if we want to influence, if we want to have our voice heard, if we want to fight the battle of ideas, we have to be where the conversation is and not where we believe that someday the conversation may be leaning towards us or is maybe tougher or less Gen Z or whatever, or we are outnumbered. So definitely every practitioner, organization, and influencers or creator who wants his voice to be heard, whether it's about Zionism or his way of life or religion or whatever, he needs to be there. And TikTok, the way it works, it's a great opportunity.
Please tell us, because
it's a great opportunity.
Most of us are...
Because it's an opportunity to go beyond the echo chamber, a challenge that every practitioner in the Jewish and pro-Israeli world has encountered. How do we pass the echo chamber? And this is where the opportunity lies.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll just add that I think we definitely need to be there as the State of Israel and the official accounts, but at the end, it's the people, regular people like you who share their stories on social media. These are the best stories that the world is going to look at and see Israel and understand Israel from your videos, not from the state.
Right. So Yara, you have a unique position because you do social media for Meretz. Those who don't know, Meretz is a left-wing Israeli political party, but also a faction in the World Zionist Congress. So the content you promote first of all, it appeals to a progressive audience, but second of all, and definitely before October 7th, is also very critical of the Israeli government. So when traditional, Jewish organizations will be more aligned, in a sense, you guys are the bad guys, or I don't know.
Bueno, primero que nada, perdón que nosotros no tenemos TikTok. Próximamente vamos a tener TikTok, pero por ahora tenemos Instagram. Es una discusión llegar a TikTok por el rango generacional, pero próximamente vamos a estar llegando a TikTok. Y sobre eso sí, es un desafío para nosotros, tanto en Argentina siendo minoría como judíos y también como progresistas, y un crecimiento del antisemitismo. Y yendo un poco a mi historia personal, yo me di cuenta que quería compartir contenido de Israel y no tenía qué contenido compartir porque era un extremo o otro. Y lo que intentamos hacer desde Meretz es ir a historias personales. Y eso es lo que termina teniendo éxito y lo que termina llegando a todas las personas.
So can you give me examples? Can you give me examples of content you created that caused a fuss within the Argentinian Jewish community? I mean, we spoke before, and you mentioned something this week that you filmed.
Sí, esta semana nosotros, como parte de un seminario previo al Congreso, estuvimos en Niros y filmamos un video en una de las casas que unos familiares habían escrito, porque habían asesinado a sus familias, habían escrito un cartel a Netanyahu diciéndole esta soy yo también, había filmado un video habían hecho un cartel contra Netanyahu que decía: Netanyahu, tus manos están llenas de sangre por haber asesinado a nuestras familias. Y cuando subimos ese video tuvimos varios comentarios diciendo que esa no era la realidad y por qué mostrábamos eso, cuando eso es lo que vimos nosotros, eso es a lo que nosotros nos enfrentamos.
Okay. So you create different types of content. When you see a video like that, or a video, I don't know other examples, right? But of that sort, what's your reaction? And as an organization, do you just put out your own content? Do you answer with facts, or ask behind the scenes for people to be more, I don't know, speak in a more peaceful way?
Yeah, so in Talk Israel, we believe that that sort of political content is like, it's preaching to those who already have that stance. And we believe that we need to push content that is positive about Israel, that shows your personal story, the authenticity, and speaking politics in your videos. Yeah, thank you. We need to look at it at a way of, you need to imagine that 15-year-old kid from Arizona, and they're watching a political video someone created about Israel, or about the political figures here, and they are probably going to scroll away. They would not care about that. They would probably even see it as propaganda. It doesn't matter if it's left or right. For them, it's when they see political content on social media and they're not that invested in it, and most of them are not. Most of them do not care about the news so much. 70% of young American Gen Z, they hear their news they consume it from social media. And you need to understand what that means. That means they're not so much into it. So
no, or by the way, maybe they consume the news sometimes through a podcast that aligns with their beliefs,
yeah.
right?
Yeah,
that could be, or a niche news outlet or social media account that they trust.
Exactly, and that's also why they also connect so much to the Palestinian story and why it's thriving so much on social media, because they took a stance. They have that, oh, okay, this is my political view, I'm going to like everything that I see about that topic. So they're not even exposed to that kind of content that you put out there. I'm sure like most of the people who see that content are people who are already invested in that story and they care about it.
Tenemos también mucho contenido de mostrar también la realidad de Israel y contenidos que la gente quiere ver también pacifistas, que eso es lo que queremos ver y queremos que llegue a Argentina. También hay que entender que muchas veces a Argentina llega solo una visión quizás diferente de lo que pasa en Israel o lo que pasa en otros países. Otro ejemplo de un video que hicimos que tuvo mucho éxito es la historia de una persona de una comunidad árabe que cuenta cómo él salvó vidas el 7 de octubre, y esa es una narrativa que no llega a Argentina. Entonces lo que tratamos de hacer es tratar también de traducir y acercar este material a Argentina, por muchas personas que se sintieron alejadas a partir del 7 de octubre pudieron volver a través de nuestro contenido y quizás desde nuestra narrativa de mostrar las dos perspectivas.
So yeah, when we spoke before, we spoke about content on social media that causes a fuss or discussion within the Jewish community in Argentina, and I think one of them, which is interesting, the contrast between Israeli Jews and Argentinian Jews or left-wing Argentinian Jews, is that Israelis love Javier Milei, your president, who just succeeded very well. Was it yesterday, I think, in the parliament elections? And a dramatic increase. My personal views are that I like it, but
it's okay.
he's a rock star, So so you create content sometimes that criticizes Javier Milei, but people either from the outside the Jewish community or from within are like, what? He's the most Jewish president out there, right? So like, how do you deal with that?
Es una pregunta muy interesante. Voy a llevar a un ejemplo que pasó hace poco, hace unas semanas, en una presentación de un libro. El presidente optó cantar el Haba Nagila Haba. Es una canción que habla de la alegría del pueblo en un momento no muy alegre para la sociedad argentina y tampoco para la sociedad israelí. Era previo al acuerdo de cese al fuego. Y entonces lo que terminamos sintiendo, más allá que obviamente entendemos el aprecio que le tienen al presidente acá en Israel, es que se elevó y creció mucho el antisemitismo en Argentina a través de esto, y cada vez es más difícil porque cada vez que posteamos algo nos critican o por izquierda o por derecha.
Okay, so now one question for all three of you is, what is Israel doing well on social media, if anything? And how can we improve? What needs to be done? Because all of you are in that world. Some of us are older and some of us are younger. But we'll start with you, Lior. What do you think, not necessarily in your TikTok hat, which is a cool hat to have, what are we doing right and what are we doing terribly?
First of all, what we're doing right, I think we are fighting. I think that after 7th October, it's clear there is a vibrant community that is willing to fight for by our way of living and also our values. And I think if in the past there were some questions about the relationship between Israel and Israelis in the diaspora, 7th October put us in the same place, sometime fighting against the same challenges.
Yes and no. But yeah.
As always in question about Jews. But I will also say that I think the question, what are we doing wrong or we are not doing good enough, is not just about, doesn't just touches social media, but generally. I think that in the last few decades, we are lacking a strategy with a long-term vision. There's no strategy. There's no one room in Israel, in another place of where we want to get to. Who is our target audience? How do we get there? Are we doing right? Are we, how are we doing? Are we succeeding? We're lacking the funding.
Which is weird, because it's out there. We're just not.
But still, when you look at the detractors, the gap is, there's no word to describe how much the other side is investing in comparison to what the pro-Israel community is investing.
They do say the same thing about us, to be fair. They do.
But here the numbers are very clear. And there is a need for long-term funding that is totally independent of development on the ground. It takes time to build audience, to build trust, to win hearts and minds, especially communities that we haven't engaged with for decades. Mm-hmm. We're lacking research and measurement. I always say that if I am to run now for the city council of Mevaseret Zion, a small community just 10 minutes from here, I will probably use more research than what the State of Israel and the pro-Israel community using as a whole in terms of understanding the audience.
I really hope you're wrong.
I was there. I was trying to push for. I think we need to do much more research and measure our effort. And we are not using the technology that we are
creating. We're creating it. Yeah, it's us.
So it's available to us. We are making it available and accessible to most of the businesses, and we are not using it. So when the crisis hits, we're starting to look, and we're looking for the kind of the golden solution that will solve everything. But hearts and minds and audience takes time, and now I think we should start building for the years to come to look at where we stand post 2 years after the 7th of October. But going back to on a positive note, I think that there are lots of Israel has lots of friends. Mm-hmm. The Jewish people have lots of friends. There are lots of voices out there that are standing for Israel, and we should take a look and see. I think some people, we have some heroes when it comes to public diplomacy, and we should take a note of that as well.
By the way, I think I agree with a lot of things you said, but at the beginning of the war, there was a lot of advertising agencies in Israel and companies, who just stopped everything and they created, and you wouldn't even know. Like, they didn't put their name on it, which is smart in my opinion. And there was a lot of grassroots work from the greatest minds in Israel. So it wasn't an official capacity necessarily, but it definitely existed.
This was always one of the challenges. How do we get more people involved? Not just the practitioners, the professionals.
Right.
How we get people to
the average person.
Exactly, to take part of the discussion and to, basically to enlist. Mm-hmm. And what happened after post 7th of October? That everybody enlisted. There is a word in Hebrew, Hamal, right? War room. Mm-hmm. So every 2 people in a building open the Hamal.
I had a sense for every time
exactly.
I heard that word.
And part of the challenge is how do you preserve some of the talent and the ideas and the invention and the kind of creativity these people brought, and make sure it's part of the ongoing effort.
Okay. Do?
So I agree with Lior, and I want to add that one thing we need to change in the way that we do things is the way that we do hasbara. We're so used, as Jews, we love facts, and we love to speak the truth and to explain stuff. But now the young generation, the one that is on social media, they don't care about that. That content does not reach them. That doesn't change their mind. And we need to change the way we do that. We need to change the content into more positive content. For example, someone going to the beach in Tel Aviv, showing the people playing matkot, explaining what it is, showing the culture in Israel, eating jachnun at Shabbat. That is the kind of things that will make someone like Israel and Israelis more. Maybe that person from America who is watching that video also likes
But
going to the
we
beach.
can't just do that
We
because
can't.
it's...
No, but we do need to do that also. Because
Okay.
what we're doing mostly right now is asbara. You saw once October 7th happened, a lot of people created content. And they understood that this is another battlefield. And it is.
Yeah.
Social media is another battlefield that we definitely need to fight. But there is another way to it. We need to understand there are people who don't want to hear about politics. And the way to get to them and change their mind is to show them stuff that they can relate to show them that Israelis are warm, that we have amazing views here, that we don't ride camels to work. Like, you know, so many people think.
Just like Saudi Arabia, for
Yeah.
instance. Yeah.
True. But you know what happens when you search Saudi Arabia on Instagram or TikTok, or even like more controversial countries like Qatar, for example.
Okay.
You will see nice things about them.
Okay.
You can search up Iran and you'll see like, oh, beautiful places in Iran. And Iran
Okay.
is an amazing, beautiful place. And also Israel. But when you search Israel, you don't see that
Right.
kind of content. You see like really aggressive political content. And it's okay, but we need to see alongside that the amazing things that we have here, the amazing people that we have here, the food, the culture.
So what are we doing well?
So what we're doing good.
Yeah.
I mean,
Positive.
positive, we are already, we are already doing that. Some people are already showing that aspect about Israel. We just
Okay.
need to do it in masses. We need
Okay.
to do it more. We need to put it out there more. And yeah, this is why we're here.
Okay.
And
Perfect. Yara.
Creo que lo importante es contar historias personales y traer historias personales, que es lo que le llega a la gente. Otro ejemplo, cuando liberaron a los hermanos Cunio hace unos días, publicamos un video de la mamá contando que le hicieron empanadas de carne, porque eso era lo que ellos querían comer y le llevaron eso al hospital, y eso fue uno de los videos que más reproducciones tuvo y más gente vio, porque conecta un poco la situación de Israel y lo argentino con las empanadas y cuenta una historia personal por atrás.
Okay. So just a few hours before we started, I tweeted something on Twitter, on X, and I wanted to hashtag Zionist Congress, Zion, whatever. And like when you do that, what comes up? Zionism is terrorism, Zionism is Nazism, all these types of stuff, right? So my question is, we have the greatest minds here on stage. How can Zionism be great again? Yeah, you want to start, though?
yeah, I think we just don't need to sell Zionism, because a lot of times we started to explain Zionism is not what you think. A lot of people have like the wrong opinion about what it is, and you all know it. And we just need to not sell it. We need to share our authentic lives as they are, sharing the positivity, the good stuff about our culture, and people will translate that into, oh, maybe that's what they mean when they say Zionism. Maybe like this person is.
Right, but after October 7th, okay, we're in a loop of 2 years of war, of hostages, of another war, of another front, Iran, Lebanon, right? So as much as I would love to just focus on our beaches
Yeah.
and our camels and whatever, right? How do we, we live in a very complicated area, and that needs to be told, I think, in a different way. I don't know how.
Yeah, but it's not just about showing the beaches and the fact that we are riding cars and not just
Obviously,
camels.
yeah.
It's also about community. We are very strong as a community. That is an aspect that is very strong about us. So we need to show that as well, showing the fact that we are out there for one another as the Jewish people. We are united, showing that during the war, everyone in this country got together and donated money and food and whatever everyone needed, just like individually as people.
But how does this translate to Zionism, right? Because nowadays, the word Zionism, if it was, I mean, I remember 10 years ago, I did an interview. I was interviewed on a British channel, and I said I'm a Zionist. Oh my God. Okay? This is 10 years ago. Nowadays, if you say I'm a Zionist, you are part of a terrorist group, or I don't know what. So Yara, I mean, I think a lot of that criticism actually comes from the left, how do you deal with it?
En nuestro caso es mostrar que el sionismo puede ser muchas cosas y es justamente esto, es estar diferentes personas de diferentes países, de diferentes ideologías. En nuestro caso es un sionismo progresista, que creemos en la paz, creemos en una solución de 2 estados para 2 pueblos y estamos convencidos de eso, y es demostrar eso, y es demostrar que el sionismo no es solo una facción, que es lo que quizás se ve en muchos países y es quizás la vara clásica, sino que hay un montón de otras cosas que también son sionismo y que tener empatía y pensar en el prójimo es sionismo también.
Okay, but most Israelis, Yara, most Israelis don't believe in at the moment, don't believe in a 2-state solution, right? And many times also you'll hear voices from Israel that will contradict your ideology and the things you said. So how do you display? How do you maintain saying this is Zionism? In my opinion, this isn't, or whatever.
Pero muchas otras voces también sí siguen creyendo en la paz y sí siguen construyendo y creyendo que la paz es el camino. Y básicamente lo que hacemos también es acercar muchos discursos progresistas que pasan en la Knesset, en los actos de los sábados a la noche desde el 7 de octubre, a la gente en Argentina para demostrarles que sí, quizás será menor, pero sí hay una gran parte de la sociedad israelí que cree en la paz y que pide por la paz, y eso es lo que tratamos de transmitir a Argentina y a toda Latinoamérica también.
Okay, Lior, how would you sell Zionism?
I've been teaching in the last decade at the Reichman University. The name of my class is How to Win the War of Narratives.
Okay.
And I ask every first lesson, I ask the students, all right, what's wrong with our narrative? And they say in the world, I feel with anti-Semitism, people hate us, da, da, da. And then I said, okay, you have the chance now, whatever you will say will be the story that the whole world will listen to and, and kind of, and obey to whatever. So tell us what the story. And you can't find 2 students that tell the same story. And I think that part of the problem, Zionism is an idea, and I think that as an Israeli or as people, we need to discuss what it means, and the easier way is to show it. Because in my view, Zionism is the scientists in the Weizmann Institute who are now going to a temporary laboratory in order to create or to look at the next invention that he'll find that will cure thousands of people, although his laboratory was hit by a missile. And these kids from in gap year who go and work in the fields of the Gaza envelope to help the farmers there. And the reservist who leaves everything, leaves his work, his life in order to serve, or the executive in a high-tech company that leaves everything in order to become a school teacher. So all of this and many, many more is Zionism, which actually means that we took responsibility on our faith and we are not passive anymore. We're creating our future. So when you show it, it's easier than we say it, or what does it mean? So I think that when we'll show all the wonderful things happening in Israel, people will be able to say, all right, that's Zionism, I get it. Or they'll get what the Israelis are doing, what's happening there, even if they won't exactly understand what Zionism is.
I was hoping one of you would say Herzl t-shirts and socks.
I know you're a big fan of...
I'm a bit, yeah, my Herzl socks are like with holes in them. I need new ones. But yeah, we have a few questions from the audience. But I'm going to be very clear. It's a question, not a statement. If it's not a question, I'm going to move on. Yes.
You talked about unity, Achdut, and this is what we've been hearing for the last 2.5 years, or let's say 2 years, because there was a war. Israeli media channels, thank you, do not or stay away from showing the demonstration, the protest movement, any anti-government. Now, people around the world see all the pictures, and support for Israel is declining. That's the reality. So Israel is a wonderful country, has a lot of talent and great people and great places. There is no question about it. But don't just think that you have to counteract what people see. And my question is, don't you think that showing that there are so many Israelis who do not agree with what the government is doing, so many people, senior people in the army, say that the war should not have continued so long. So I don't know what the truth is, but why doesn't the media show, why don't the media show that a lot of Israelis do not agree with the government and what the government is doing? And
Israeli media?
Israeli media.
Do you watch Israeli media?
I watch Channel 12, and Channel 12 hardly shows the protest movement and demonstrations.
I strongly disagree.
Okay.
I strongly disagree.
Okay, so
but if anyone wants to answer.
So the last question.
So the question is about the classic Israeli media.
Don't you think that
Why
this
are
would
they
help actually the
100%.
Israeli image if you show that actually not all Israelis support the government?
Yes. Does anybody want to answer?
I want to try. And if I'm not answering, please feel free to...
We'll kick you off the stage.
Yes. Look, I believe that, look, in Israel there is a fierce discussion. Israel is very divisive discussion on real stuff. By the way, like any other country in the world right now, but we have other, our challenges are slightly bigger and we are slightly smaller. And as it happened, Israel has always been the most kind of the central story of the world. There are essays about it, Matty Friedman, why Israel became the biggest story of the world. Now, these are real stuff that are happening here, and it's being covered. Where are you from?
Toronto.
So if you take the American media landscape, you have something very similar today in Israel. So whatever news that works for you, you can pick a channel, and this is the reality that you'll see. The problem is sometimes that the reality in Israel, and this discussion is very legitimate, is being weaponized outside of Israel by various parties for various reasons. Sometimes it serves in order to delegitimize Israel. Sometimes, so there are many aspects to this discussion, and I believe that right now in all over humanity, I think there are few people who haven't developed an opinion about what's going on here. I think that it will be part, I think the fact that this is a democracy. When I was a spokesman of the Israeli embassy in Washington, D.C., I used to say, when appearing in front of students, I used to say, look, hi, my name is Lior. We are a democracy. Now ask me anything you like. Anything you like, because this is the strongest case that we have. So I think that wherever you're looking, you'll see enough of, and if you want a different reality, just switch channel.
100%. We had another question over there. Can you pass the microphone? And also over there. Okay. Oh, but okay. I want to try and let the closer to Gen Z people ask questions too.
Hi, Leon Lanes from Chile. My question will sound a bit familiar for Yara because we're neighboring countries. We've tried every type of strategy. We've gone with, this war is not something that affects Chileans, so why bring it here? We also tried, this war does affect you, and that didn't work as well. In Chile, actually, when you show anything related to Israel, even not related to the war, if you see the comments, everything is going to be Jews this, Jews that, everything anti-Semitic, not even anti-Zionist. So the approach I personally took was from the part of, I'm trying to convince Christians and non-Jews about this, and started showing first what a Jew is, because people really don't know what a Jew is. We're like the dwarves they tell in folk tales, and they don't know who we are. So my question is, and whoever wants to answer is, what is the best approach we should have with non-Jews? Are we trying to convince ourselves about what Zionism is and what do we represent, or are we trying to convince others? That's my question. Thank you.
Okay. Short answers. You want to answer, though? Is that your target audience? Are non-Jews your...
Yeah, definitely non-Jews are our target audience. But mostly I would say American Gen Z, but overall non-Jews. And I think we definitely need to just expose them to Judaism, everything. And I think like what we're trying to do when we speak about non-Jews, we want them to understand that in Israel, there are not just Jewish people living here, that there is Christmas. Amazing, actually, like not just like a small Christmas thing that's going on in Israel, like actually a massive Christmas thing is happening in Haifa, Nazrat, Jerusalem, like all these places. And we need to expose that to them. They have no idea. And by showing that to people around the world, not just like South America, but America and all over, that will get people to maybe have a better view about Israel and Zionism. Like they'll understand that Zionism does not exclude them from the country of Israel, that they have a place here, that we want them to come, that they're invited, and we need to show them that, yeah.
Okay, Yara, a short answer.
Sí, quizás también en Chile tienen muchas más dificultades que quizás tenemos en Argentina, y sé lo difícil que es llevar el sionismo en Chile, así que gracias por todo lo que hacen desde Chile. Creo que la mejor manera es mostrar lo que hacemos y mostrar qué es Israel y la variedad y la diversidad que hay adentro del judaísmo. Creo que, para ser corta, esa es la mejor manera, de mostrar todas las voces y todas las posibilidades que hay en el judaísmo, como en Israel, como tanto fuera de Israel como dentro de Israel.
I definitely think that's important. Where's the microphone? Okay, you have it over there.
Buenas tardes, yo soy de Venezuela, más difícil que Chile. Mi pregunta ante este panel de expertos le diría, ¿cómo manejaría la media cuando el antisemitismo en la media proviene del Estado? Está promovido absolutamente por el Estado, por el alto mando, y ante tanta ignorancia en el pueblo, split automáticamente.
I had translation in my ear, but basically, I think the question was, what do we do with anti-Semitism in media that actually comes from the state, not only in the media itself? Leo.
This is a tough question. Look, anti-Semitism, unfortunately, it's a 1,000-year-old plague that mutates every 2 decades or so, and right now we are in the middle of a wave. Actually, it was you, Tzvika, who kind of placed a mirror in front of our eyes when you walked the street of Paris, and you were, attacked just for wearing a Magen David, a kippah. And this is a challenge, not just, when it comes from the state, that it means that there is a really, really bad government, but unfortunately, we meet it in many, many other places. And in the last few years, we met it in everywhere. We met it on college campuses, in the media, in universities, and in sport, obviously in social media. Everywhere where people were, we met, we found ourselves, we faced anti-Semitism. So I will try and answer, what I think is the solution, and by the way, and how we TikTok see the challenge, if it's okay. I think the way to fight anti-Semitism, it's with a cooperation between individuals, organizations, communities, agencies and state, and obviously tech companies. We all know that it will be impossible to eradicate anti-Semitism, so there won't be a finish line to this fight. We TikTok understand there won't be a finish line. We understand that when we wake up in the morning and we build 10-meter high wall, somebody by the afternoon will get a 15-meter high ladder. And we'll have to do better and better and better. But in our community guidelines are saying that anti-Semitism is prohibited. I think we are the only tech company who mentioning anti-Semitism by its name. And with a combination...
By the way, Meta actually has, people whose role it is to be the liaison for the Jewish community, or for hate speech.
So do we. And we appointed a person who is in charge of this issue in DC. Again, I think that this is his portfolio or her portfolio. I think we are the only one doing it. And her job is to to be a liaison to the Jewish community, but also, and I think more importantly, to make sure internally that people are aware of what's going on. So we have about 40,000 expert moderators all over the world, and they get training on anti-Semitism. And we have channels, vibrant channels with organizations the world over. So we'll know when a trend developed, we'll see it in a timely manner in order to make sure it's off the platform. One example that I can, off the cup, when there were fires in Jerusalem about 6 months ago, there were people celebrating it, and there were people who were blaming the Jews for starting the fires in order to blame others. And we got a tip from a Jewish organization, and we took it off immediately. So it's a combination of technology, enforcement, but also education. So we need to kind of belittle the darkness, but also bring light. So we brought, and this is an example how we can fight it.
Okay, I'm going to cut you there off.
Can I have another 30 seconds?
What? 30 seconds.
30 seconds. We brought a group of about the 12 leading creators, TikTok creators from Israel to the March of the Living. I was leading the delegation. I was quite frightened because the combination between creators that do fun stuff and the Holocaust remembrance, it's not very intuitive combination or a matchmaking. And they created amazing videos with their own interpretation that within 5 days got 29 million views.
Wow.
So enforcement, cooperation, education, I think this is the way to make sure we push anti-Semitism back to where it's belong, and obviously be very vigilant all the time.
Okay, we only have a few minutes left, so we're going to take a few questions. You'll have to take the microphone from here. And you could, so please, short questions. Yeah. We'll take 3 or 4 questions, and then we'll answer what we have time for. Okay.
Okay, my question is for all of you. What about if instead of fighting against anti-Semitism, we fight against misinformation? I mean, giving information, but that there should, my question is if you think that creating a committee, special committee, and that they create all the propaganda that we need to publish in maybe different languages or in English, and then we translate it, and use us as a massive media spreading. And all of us have something to make it public, to be created or by influencers or by specialists. Okay. And you use all of us, because we are around the world, So we need something to give. And I wouldn't use the word Zionism. By read between the lines would be part of it.
Okay.
But I stopped using it. Do you think it will work?
Okay,
It will
so
work?
that's one question. Next question.
Do we not have an opportunity to address it by building a world Zionist village, a joint venture between JNF and KKL to bring Jewish students to do summer interns and gap years and study in the high technology area of Beersheba? Isn't that the way we need to address our people? We got organizations all over the world addressing anti-Semitism.
Please speak into
Yes.
the mic.
Okay.
Okay. One more question, and then we'll have very short answers. Yes. I love the Zionism Village.
Whenever I go into Twitter or whatever, I'm tired of reporting anti-Semitic comments, and I have very little success now in having them stamped out. Is there a guideline you can suggest on how to report these incidents so that we all together can start wiping them out? If we don't create content, at least we can help wipe out whatever trash there is in there.
Okay. Dol, I want you to start answering. Short answers, 30 seconds each.
Yeah, so in terms of anti-Semitism online, we definitely need to report and don't amplify. I see a lot of creators who take those videos and comment to them. We don't want to do that. We want to push it back and
Sorry, Dor, can you change the microphones?
Oh, yeah. All right. Can you hear me now?
Okay.
All right, perfect. So in terms of anti-Semitism online, we want to report it. There is that opportunity to do it on TikTok, Instagram, everywhere you go, but you don't want to amplify it. You don't want to give it and feed it more power. In terms of here in Israel, Beersheba, someone mentioned, we definitely need to train people to create content that contradicts that. For example, Talk Israel is already doing that. We have programs in Haifa University, Reichman, and Tel Aviv, in which we train people to be content creators, to push content that is positive about Israel, that is sharing their lives.
Okay.
And
Sorry, I'm
that's-
cutting
yeah.
you off. Yara?
Muchas veces se hacen cosas de combate de antisemitismo y terminan siendo quizás cosas vacías, así que quizás mi recomendación, si puedo llegar a hacer alguna recomendación, es seguir creando y seguir haciendo cosas, que esa es la manera de combatir y luchar contra el antisemitismo, seguir demostrando y seguir mostrando quiénes somos y qué hacemos pese al odio y, como decía, reportar el odio y también muchas veces visualizar el odio para que también se vea lo que sufrimos y a lo que estamos expuestos.
Excuse me.
Okay, Leo, final word. Very short, though. I'm going to have to kick you off the stage.
All right. So in the next 7 minutes,
They're going to pull us up, all of us up.
I'll just say to the gentleman who spoke about reporting, as I said, the challenge is to combine forces. Individual, organization, tech companies, state, media, everyone. Without reporting, without being part of this fight, it will be harder to spot, harder to enforce. So I urge everyone to keep on reporting. Don't let it go. Push TikTok is very easy to report. Other places, not so easy, but go for it. Keep on doing it. I will plug in that if you'll go online and see there are organizations like FOA, Cyberwell, who are dealing with these issues, I urge you to look at their reports and look at their website and engage with them. They are very helpful. By the way, again, just to unpack some of the stuff that we discussed at on top of this discussion, the removal rate of TikTok is the highest between all social networks, by far, and the number of incidents in TikTok relatively lower than the other social networks. Generally, keep on reporting.
Excuse me.
I'm sorry, our time is up. I do want to say, though, that at the Jerusalem Post, we're also looking for interns. So the traditional media still has its power. I would like to thank our speakers for bringing from their expertise. And I hope you all should have a good and meaningful Zionist Congress.
תודה.